Hello and welcome to Tokyo Inklings. My name is CY. You can find me on my website at tokyostationpens.com or on Twitter at tokyostationmnh, as well as Instagram at tokyostationpens.
And my name is Jacob, and I am Foodafan on Instagram and on Twitter, and I have a blog at foodafan.com.
So, Jacob, we decided to do another emergency episode. So why is that?
Right, so there were two announcements from Sailor yesterday. There was an obvious one in the sense that they did a press release and they announced it on Instagram and so on. Then there was a less obvious one because you had to find out about it in a roundabout way through the Japanese Twitter sphere. That's possibly the more interesting announcement, but let's get to that one in a second and start with the first one. So what was the new product announcement?
So this announcement is again also a bit of a roundabout way. They announced a few new colors in the Pro Gear Slim Mini, but they framed it as a new announcement. I would rather say this is a product refresh. So within this first announcement, there's like two announcements. Within the first announcement, they said we have some new colors and they're Moroccan inspired. And then in the second announcement of the first announcement, they said, oh, and by the way, we're discontinuing the old style Pro Gear Slim Mini. So what Sailor has decided to do under the stewardship of Plus is to remove the threading from the Pro Gear Slim Minis and probably the Pro Gear Minis as well. And as far as I am aware, the Pro Gear Mini and Slim Mini were the only pens in their lineup to feature a back thread. So we actually knew about this for a while because we were talking to some retailers here and they had told us. But what's interesting, I think, to me, is that the reason why Sailor decided to discontinue the ones with threads and instead do no threads, according to Sailor, is because a lot of their customers decided or gave feedback that they didn't want threads and it's difficult to use the threads to post. So it was easier for them to just stick it on the back of the barrel.
Which is valid, I think.
I think that's totally valid. And I agree that it's probably easier to post just by, sticking on the back of the pen. What's interesting to me is that that's not what the retailers told us. So the retailers told us that it was a pain in the butt to make the threads on the back. And bear in mind that this was the only model that they had threads on the back. So I think it's interesting that already Plus is trying to streamline the kind of parts that they make, because the butt part should be the same part that they use in the Pro Gear and the Profit 21.
And then I think the colors were somewhat interesting because the currently available Pro Gear Slim Minis, they already have some kind of pastel colors, right? But now they're announcing a new set of slightly different pastel colors. So as you said, they say this is Morocco themed, but the colors do look very similar, at least to me, to what's currently available.
I think to me this indicates a shift in the market because I don't know if you've noticed this, Jacob, but I think there's a Moroccan boom in Japan right now, especially with females. So I think that this release is clearly targeted towards the female section of the market. What do you think?
Yeah, as for the model itself, they're even saying that in the press release that this is this is ideal for female size hands. But the pastel colors is something we've seen a lot of, both in pens and inks.
Yeah. So I think that this release is interesting in the sense that it's both a discontinuation and a recontinuation, let's say. But it shows that under the leadership of Plus, there seems to be a clearer focus on why they want to do something that's grounded in somewhat of a reality. So that's the first one. The second one is the news of the discontinuations and the discontinued models. Now, this one was harder to find because there was no public announcement about it from Sailor.
Yeah, so this is quite interesting because clearly Sailor had reached out to retailers. And we know that because, for example, Marsden, they did a tweet yesterday when they said, from September, certain Sailor models are going to be discontinued, and they attached a photo with a display with all the models. And then people replied to that and asked Sailor directly, they asked Sailor's official account, are you discontinuing the Sigma? And are you discontinuing the Promenade? And Sailor replied, said, yes, we are doing that.
Yeah, and in Japan, usually you don't do this without a press release. In other companies from other parts of the world, you kind of just discontinue your models and nobody cares. It's part of the game. But in Japan, usually they give like 14 days kind of notice. Say, hey, we're discontinuing this. We're really, really sorry. A lot of people loved using it, but because of reasons, we had to do this. So they didn't do it in this time. Instead, what they had done is they sent an email around to the retailers with a list of the products that they were discontinuing. And they said, the last date you can order this is the 31st of June. The 31st of July. So the retailers had known about this for a while, and they had been placing their orders. It means that if you are looking for a even the Pro Gear Slim Mini, you have to go buy one now. But there are some interesting things that are being discontinued. Let's go with the smaller discontinuations, and then we can move up to the bigger one.
So based on what we can tell from the tweets, at least, Sailor has confirmed about the Promenade. They have confirmed about the Sigma. Then there are discussions from people. They seem to think that Mille Colore and Young Prophet and Barcarolle are discontinued. I didn't see a confirmation from Sailor about that, but those models are also in the photo that Marsden posted. So if we start with those models, Barcarolle is kind of an interesting one. I remember it was released in 2016 because I actually went to Marsden back in 2016 just when it was announced, and because I wanted to have a look at it. And it's basically Sailor's answer to Pilot Grande. It's this sort of slender pen. I think it's a metal pen, and it has the same nib as the Prophet Standard. It's a bit expensive. I think it's 15,000 yen. I never ever see it online. I never seen people using it, so I suspect it really didn't do that well. And I think we talked offline about this model, and you had not even heard about it, right?
Yeah, I have no idea what this model is. But yeah, apparently it's being discontinued. What struck me as interesting was Young Prophet. I thought they were introducing that in the States now.
No, I think that's the Pro Color, or I could be wrong. I'm not entirely on top of that.
Is the Pro Color a steel nib?
Yes, but they are different. I think the Young Prophet has a slimmer nib. Yeah, there's even a Young Prophet with a music nib, a steel music nib.
Okay.
But yeah, this is another model that you just don't hear much about at all. You don't see much about it. So maybe it was not too surprising. The third one that you do see sometimes online is the Mille Colore, which is basically a Pro Gear, except that the barrel has sort of 3 sections separated by rings in 3 different colors. And it's quite an expensive pen. I think there are 30,000 yen plus tax here in Japan. So I guess they didn't sell very well. So those are, the minor models. Now, for the major ones, let's start with a Promenade, because that is an interesting one. I don't think it's available in many markets. And to understand why Promenade may or may not make sense, you need to look at the profit line first. So profit is Sailor's, their standard classic cigar shaped model. So within the profit line, Sailor has profit standard, which has 14K nib, and it's the cheapest one at 12,000 yen. Then moving up from profit standard, you have profit standard 21, where you get a 21K nib, but the size is the same, and you're paying a little bit extra for 21K.
The size is a bit bigger, isn't it?
No, I think it's the same.
Oh, okay.
And then you're moving from profit standard 21 to profit 21, and that's when you get a bigger nib and the whole pen is bigger. And then you're paying 20,000 yen for the base model. And then you jump another 10,000 yen in price and you get the Profit Realo, which is, the piston filler. And then finally at the top of the line, you have the King Profit at 60,000 yen, which is has the 149 size nib. So that is the profit model. But then they have this Promenade model, which was announced in 2013. And the Promenade has the same nib as Profit Standard. It's slightly longer than Profit Standard, and the barrel has a little bit of glitter, so what they call a rame. And it's also a bit cheaper, so it's 10,000 yen instead of 12,000 yen. And the way, I think I read somewhere that the Promenade was released as an answer to Platinum's 3776, so a little bit more sparkly barrel and lower price. But the obvious question that everyone has is, why do you have both Profit Standard and Promenade when the price is almost the same? You have the same nib and they look very similar.
So actually, I bought a Promenade once, and when I got it in, I had no idea what it was. The most distinctive difference is in the clip. So it's got this textured clip, which I actually think is very, very nice. But if you didn't know what you were looking for, I think if you have a Promenade and a Standard in front of you, and you were doing a blind test, it's very difficult to tell. What's I think for me interesting is that if you go on Sailor's website, it's actually one of their 4 main products in the product pillars. So the product pillars are the Profit, the Professional Gear, the Pro Gear Sigma, and the Promenade. So it means that they are discontinuing this product lineup, which they thought was going to be a pillar for their company. That indicates to me that the Promenade didn't sell at all.
Yeah, and I'm also wondering if the Pro Gear Slim has kind of taken over the role that Promenade was meant to have, which is this more colorful model that maybe attracts younger customers, and that it sort of rendered the Promenade a bit obsolete. Because I'm looking at original press release for Promenade from 2013, and the models I see, like the color options, are the same as I see on Sailor's website today. So as far as I can tell, they never did anything with this model.
So only 3 colors.
Yes, you have black, and then you have a blue one with some sparkles, and then you have sort of wine red burgundy with some sparkles.
Okay, and then there's a one rhodium trim one that's black.
Okay, yeah, sure, yes.
Yeah, so there's that. And then the Pro Gear Sigma is also being discontinued. So what the Pro Gear Sigma is a it's basically a Pro Gear but with a different clip and a different finial, and it's more expensive. And one of the points that they made was that the finial, they used this kind of finish to enable the Sailor mark to look like it's floating inside a I think it's resin, this resin kind of material that they have. Now, to come to think of it, this actually looks a lot like what they used to do on the Theta pen. So I think you got in a Theta pen once with this kind of enamel-ish, kind of plasticky finial. So I think that's what's happening here as well. They have that. They have this clip that's supposed to be an anchor to represent Sailor. To me, it looks like a duck beak, but it's supposed to be an anchor. And then they have the large size nib. And actually, the Pro Gear Sigma was quite a developed lineup. So they had the Pro Gear Sigma in their rollerballs. They had it in obviously the regular Pro Gear. They had it in different trims, and they also had it in the Realo. And for the difference in the finial and the clip, it's actually more expensive. So I'm seeing that the Pro Gear, I'm seeing that you can get a Sigma for, they also have the Slim. So the Slim is 16,000 Japanese yen. The regular, the standard, not the standard, the large size is 27,000 Japanese yen. And the matte black is 38,000 Japanese yen. And the Realo is also 38,000 Japanese yen. So they're not cheap pens.
Yeah, you're right. That's if you compare to the regular Pro Gear, you're paying another 3,000 yen for the Slim, another 5,000 yen for the large, another 5,000 again for the Realo without tax. And if you look at their press release again back from 2013, they say, one rank Ueno Premium Kan. This is sort of one step above the standard Pro Gear. But as far as I can tell, they never, again going back to the Promenade, they didn't seem to do, other than the lineup we talked about, they didn't seem to do any special editions, any custom colors. At least I have never seen anything.
Yeah, you're right, and I don't think they did any special editions of this pen either. Probably because, I don't know, the finial and the clip are kind of ugly. Is that fair for me to say? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is polarizing.
Yeah, but I mean, we know that Sailor had issues with these kind of enamelish finials. We see that they don't age well, and to add another 3,000 yen for just this and the clip, I think was a difficult ask. I think if it was the same price, it could have been a bit more interesting. But obviously there are production costs, so they had to price that in. Now, it means that Sailor as a company are cutting two of their main product lines. I'm not talking like, random special editions. These were the main pillars of their brand, at least it was supposed to be. And instead, they're cutting down to focus on the profit and the professional gear, including all of their different sizes. So as far as I know, they haven't discontinued the sizes, but it does mean that we have a significant cut of the lineup.
But what the Promenade and the Sigma have in common is that they both were remarkably similar to existing items in the lineup. So again, Promenade is very similar to Profit Standard. The Sigma is very similar to the standard Pro Gear, except for the little extras. So I think there was, in addition to any kind of production difficulties, I think there was some confusion about what is what, and they are streamlining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you see now, I think this is, for me, exciting because it represents the first step of Plus actively making a change to the product lineup to bring Sailor back to profitability. Adding an SKU into your lineup is hugely impactful to your bottom line, because that you can't just produce one product, right? So I think now maybe a little small retail briefing, but if you want to introduce one product into your lineup, you have to buy at least 2 of them. What that means is you have to have a product for the display and the product that you actually sell. So if in the case of the professional gear Sigma, let me see how many. There's 11 products here, so you need to order at least 22. And then you need to order more for the things that you think will actually sell. And you can't just have a promenade with just the black, right? You have to have it in the blue and the red and the black, all 3 of them. So you need to have 6, and then maybe you think the blue will sell more. So you need to have like 8. And for retailers, that's a huge investment. And for Sailor, it's a huge investment in the production. So I think cutting this is the right decision. I think trimming the product assortment is always good, considering that in the recent years, Sailor has sort of shifted their strategy to focus on kind of retailer exclusives, and I think that's worked out a lot better for them. So I'm glad to see this change happening.
And another interesting angle to this is that both the Promenade and the Sigma, they were originally announced in 2013, and I just read this article in a Japanese business magazine about how I think in 2009 Sailor got a new president who was formerly an elite bureaucrat at the Ministry of Finance, but he got somehow kicked out of the Japanese government because of some whining and dining setai scandal, and he ended up doing some board jobs and whatever, and somehow, I don't know why, somehow ended up at Sailor. And under his reign at Sailor, which I think was around 5 years, Sailor released many new products, but also they lost money for years. And then finally in late 2014 or early 2015, Sailor had enough of him and the board kicked him out. So these were 2 models that were released under this guy named Nakajima, while he was president. And so maybe Plus is cleaning up after this guy now.
Yeah, so I'm glad that we only have the best to run our country. But yeah, so that's I think it's exciting for Sailor. I think that a lot of people were worried, after Plus acquires Sailor, what's going to happen? Are they going to start releasing stupid stuff like the other acquisitions that happened to Parker and Schaefer and Waterman? And I think it's safe to say, at least for now, it seems that Plus is very interested in keeping Sailor's business, but they recognize the flaws that Sailor has. Which is a mumbo jumbo of the products, unclear product naming, products that are too similar, products that are the same except for one part, but then you have to produce tons of that part. So I think it's a good change.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's close to all we have. Do you have anything else, Jacob?
No, I think we covered it all.
Yeah. So thank you once again for tuning in to our emergency episode number 2. Do let us have some feedback on what you'd like to see, especially on these kind of short episodes where we try to bring you the breaking news from Japan. There's some kind of topics that you think would be appropriate for these kind of shorter versions. Leave us a comment on our website at tokyoinklings.com. If you can, please consider to tell a friend, tell a family member, tell whoever you know that likes stationery, especially stationery from Japan, because we are aiming to become the premier source of information for all things fountain pens and related to the hobby from Japan. So that being said, my name is CY. You can find me at tokyostationpens.com, on Twitter at tokyostationmnh, and on Instagram at tokyostationpens.
And my name is Jacob, and I am Fudefan on Instagram and Twitter, and I have a blog at fudefan.com.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.